Ohayo gozaimasu, Sensei Tokorasamitu. Good morning to everyone. We are the Group 1 and we are tasked here to present the trends and statistics of the country Japan in relation to global aging. The objectives of our discussion are as follows: to know and identify the statistics of the aging populations of Japan, to discover the different implications for this country and have a comparison if this is true to all countries, and also to learn the varied causes of aging that is prevalent in this country. Without further ado, let's get going and start with our presentation. Hajimemasu!
The inconceivable changes are taking place throughout the world as fertility and death rates fall in most of the nations and population age. Individuals, families, and governments and private sector organizations are all being affected by these improvements as they seek answers to problems about healthcare, housing, social security, job and retirement, and the weight of sickness and disability.
At this point, let us know the respective statistics of the aging population of the country, Japan. We will also look into the percentages of the said aging population in this country.
Japan is indeed aging fast. Its super-aged society has been deemed the oldest in the world. 28.7% of the population are 65 or older, with women forming the majority.
The country is also home to a record of 80,000 centenarians. By 2036, people aged 65 and over will represent one-third of the population.
Since 2011, the Japanese population has also been diminishing, and this phenomenon is actually a rare case of a large country whose entire population is becoming smaller in prosperous and peaceful times. Japan's population is expected to drop from 127 million in 2015 to 88 million by 2065.
In the year 2020, the age population 65 years old and over was 35.89 million, comprising 28.4% of the total population in every 4 persons and marking a record high.
The overpopulation of Japan in 2021 was said to be 125.50 million individuals. This entity marked a global ranking of 11th and accounted for around 1.6% of the entire global figure. It is positioned as the 12th highest in terms of population among countries or regions with a population of at least 10 million.
In the year 2021, those aged 65 years and above comprised around 29.8% of the entire population in Japan. By the year 2060, it is projected that individuals ages 65 years and beyond will constitute approximately 38% of the population in Japan, owing to a combination of a lower birth rate and increased life expectancy.
And now let us proceed with the different graphical representations and their interpretations as we continue this meaningful discussion.
Presenting the line graph representation of population ages 65 and above from 1960 to 2022 of the total population of Japan. This is based on the World Bank Organization estimates on age or sex distributions of United Nations Populations Division's World Population Prospects.
This line graph shows the aging population during the 1960s that adds up to 5,239,482, which is 5.62% of their total population.
Number of aging population during the 2000s adds up to 21,543,580, which is 16.984% of their total population.
Number of aging population during the 2020s adds up to 35,733,999, which is 28.397% of their total population.
The graphs that were presented indicate the pattern of a massive growth in the population of centenarians every decade. From the 1960s through the 2020s, the number of Japanese centenarians ranged from roughly 5 million to 35 million persons with a life expectancy of more than 100 years.
This change was brought about by technological advancements, particularly in the healthcare sector. Furthermore, research has proven that the majority of Okinawan centenarians displayed 5 criteria that contributed to the region's great number of centenarians.
a diet that is heavy on fish, grains and vegetables, and light on meat, eggs, and dairy products. Also, low stress lifestyle are being observed, which are proven significantly to be less stressful than the mainland inhabitants of Japan.
A caring community where older adults are not being isolated and rather taken better care of. This kind of warm community benefits older adults, the community, and the greater society. People of all ages, especially those who are of older ages, already feel a sense of belonging, which tends to lead happier and healthier lives and strong communities that create a more stable and supportive society.
High level of activity where local work until an older age than the average age in other countries and more emphasis on activities like walking and gardening to keep activity.
As Japan's population ages, so does its dependency ratio. This is viewed as a negative for Japan's economy. For example, an aging population raises the dependence ratio, requiring the government to pay more in benefits to people who frequently lack the ability to reinvest their earnings. Spiritually, in which engagement in spiritual things provides a feeling of purpose, and prayer relieves stress and troubles.
Now let's proceed on the different implication for the country, Japan. Let us also debunk the wondering whether this is true for all countries.
A rapidly aging population and shrinking labor force are hampering growth, warned the International Monetary Foundation in its latest country report on Japan. The latter has a direct influence on economic growth since it reduces labor force participation, which is significant determinant in output. The rising costs connected with aging, such as caring demands for the sick and the fact of the older individuals really require more medicine and hospitalization, are exacerbating the growing labor force shortfall. Although fast population aging is a big concern for the Japanese economy, the negative effects on savings and investment may be greatly lessened by fostering labor, augmenting technology progress, and prolonging the working lives of the elderly.
The IMF also calculated that the impact of aging could drag down Japan's average annual GDP growth by 1 percentage point over the next 3 decades. GDP, or gross domestic product, is a measure of economic development. If GDP is increasing, the economy is doing well and the country is progressing. On the other hand, if the gross domestic product falls, as it has been in Japan and other nations, the country may be in difficulty. This frequently results in decreased outcomes, lower spending, and job losses. As a result, the country is losing ground, resulting in lower productivity and decreased economic development.
The casual effect of aging is leaving its mark on the macroeconomy of Japan, especially the labor force and capital accumulation. Due to the nation's aging and shrinking population, there's an increased need to address the labor shortage. The consequences of population aging are immense and diverse. Considerable decrease in labor supply reduces aggregate production, as well as domestic savings in an economy like Japan. As a result of manpower deficit, investment has decreased. The shift to economic behavior has the potential to slow economic development and jeopardize the national reserves as well as economic stability.
People eventually retire and leave the workforce as they start aging. And at present, there are not enough young people in Japan to fill this vacuum owing to the decline in the fertility rate as well. Current retirees are generally well off and appreciate the benefits of a long and strenuous life. However, the gains they experience now are unlikely to be retained for future generations. The drop in Japan's fertility rate has been linked to a variety of issues, including changing lifestyles, individuals marrying later in life or not marrying at all, and the younger generation's economic uncertainty.
There are certain health conditions that are expected to be a challenge to our healthcare system with the increasing number aging population. These conditions include cancer, dementia, increasing in the number of falls, obesity, and diabetes as their immune system deteriorates over time. This phenomenon is true to all countries, Aging is normal for humans, although in most situations, aging may be accelerated owing to factors such as smoking, tanning or sun exposure, or genetics. One major concern in Japan is the diminishing working age population as more elderly retire and fewer children are born to eventually replace them in employment.
Now, at this point of discussion, let us proceed with identifying and discussing the different causes of aging that manifest in Japan.
Japanese fertility rates have recently declined, but this is less due to decreased marital fertility than drop in the percentage of women who are married and have children. Due date for this mostly due to increasing lifetime celibacy and rising age at first marriage. However, the rising other factor is a divorce rate.
It is possible to explain why young ladies are reluctant to get married and have children by considering the escalating opportunity cost, particularly those related to the labor market. While the expenditures of having children are increasing, it seems like their advantages are decreasing. A decreasing percentage of women say they anticipate being supported in their old age by their offspring, and an incredibly low percentage, only 9% of mothers with children aged 0 to 14, as compared to 40 to 70% in other industrialized nations, report feeling happy from caring for children. Therefore, the more lenient attitudes regarding non-marital sex are, the advantages of getting married are diminishing.
While mortality reductions are less important in terms of population aging, compared to low fertility rate, they could have a considerable effects on healthcare costs and the need for long-term care. An aging population and slower employment rates have a wide-ranging impact on economies. GDP growth slows. Working-age individuals pay more to assist the elderly, and public budgets are strained by the increased overall cost of health and retirement services for the elderly.
Although it would technically be possible to stop the Japanese from getting older or declining by permitting greater international migration, the levels necessary to end, there would be a drastic population drop and population aging. Neither the present nor the future are likely to permit such substantial inflows.
Fiscal problems are yet another underlying factor causing the aging in this country. In contrast, Japan's public finances deteriorated severely throughout the 1990s, and the government is ill equipped to deal with an aging population. Tax revenues fell when the asset price bubble burst in the early 1990s, and expenditures have risen as a result of economic stimulus measures, particularly public works projects and the expenses of absorbing the liabilities of a number of bankrupt financial organizations.
These are the references that we use for this presentation. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you learned something from our discussion. Have a great day ahead.